How's it going, gamers? Chongo here, and today I've got a gameplay commentary for you guys. The gameplay is of Dead Space 3, the demo on the Xbox 360, and today's topic is going to be about Dead Space 3 and how it's going to include microtransactions and my thoughts on this. So anyway, let's get into it. Now, where this microtransaction system will take place is in the actual crafting bench in Dead Space 3. So instead of having to go around and look for all these items and scavenge for them, you're actually able to buy them. So this will allow pretty much easy use of creating weapons and doing all this kind of thing, which is kind of sad in a way, because what it means is if you want to play the game properly and legit without actually buying any of this, you've got to go search for all these materials, where if someone else just chucks some more money at the game, they are then able to get these things a lot faster than you because they don't have to go and look around for all this stuff. Now obviously there are some fans frustrated with this just because of the fact that if you buy a game, you're expected to get the exact same experience as someone else who buys a game and not have to fork out a little bit more money to make the game better or different in any way, unless it's basically DLC, because this isn't really adding any new content to the game. It's just sort of like pay a little bit of money and you can bypass doing something that would have taken a little bit more time to get that weapon. And it is one thing to have microtransactions in free-to-play games, considering you don't actually have to pay for them, but it's just kind of weird to have it in a full retail copy of a game. Although other games in the past that have been full retail games have decided to include microtransactions. One of them is Mass Effect 3, and this was with the multiplayer mode. I think it's where you could do it with Microsoft points. That's where I did it, and you could pay a certain amount of Microsoft points. It wasn't much, it might have been only like 200 or something like that, and you would then be able to buy basically a random set of weapons for multiplayer. And now the reason I think this is different from Dead Space is because Mass Effect is mainly about the single player experience, and you are unable to buy anything that will change that other than DLC. Now, since microtransactions were on the multiplayer side, it's not as bad, considering it's an extra mode. It's not really the main reason you get the game for. However, in Dead Space's case, it's kind of like saying, you know, here's some extra weapons if you pay a little bit more money. It's like, for example, if Call of Duty introduced a system where you could pay and then you could automatically have the best gun in multiplayer. However, they have said that this doesn't mean at the very start of Dead Space you can just chuck your money at it and have the best gun. They said they'll wait a while to unlock, but that doesn't sound too hard either. It sounds like once you've got the ability to buy the gun, you can still just use your microtransactions and buy the gun instead of scavenging for things. Also, another game that has used microtransactions, but only in the multiplayer side, like with Mass Effect 3, was Assassin's Creed 3, where you're able to, with the multiplayer, purchase it, so basically you can gain things that other people would have to go through all the levels to earn. Now, to me, this seems like basically more publishers are looking to implement microtransactions into their games as a means to get money off people who obviously don't have the time to play as much games as maybe the younger generation, or basically someone who is fully into the game, someone who just wants to, you know, get to the end quickly or basically get everything that they want. Now, I don't know, I can sort of see a difference between how Assassin's Creed 3 and Mass Effect 3 has done theirs, because they've both stuck them in the multiplayer modes for two games that are mainly about the single player experience. However, Dead Space, to me, I don't really like this kind of microtransactions, because it's mainly based in the single player, whereas if it was in a separate mode that was basically not the main point for the game, it wouldn't really matter as much. But it still seems to me that microtransactions are starting to sneak into more retail games. Also, with the amount of people getting upset about this in Dead Space, I can't really remember many people getting upset about Assassin's Creed and Mass Effect 3 basically having these features, and I think that's mainly because of, like what I've said before, since it's in the multiplayer aspect, and if you're a die-hard Assassin's Creed fan or Mass Effect fan, you probably won't care if there's microtransactions as much in the multiplayer, but if they were in the single player, that's something that would obviously annoy you, considering you could be playing with your friend at the same time in single player, and they could just go and basically beat the game because they've obtained some special weapon or have gone through a task that was really hard for you to do but was really easy for them since they've used their own money. But since more publishers are trying to pull this off, and it seems to be working for the most part, I'm not sure how well it's going to play out for Dead Space 3, but for Assassin's Creed 3 and Mass Effect 3, I don't really think it impacted their game that much. So in the future, I can probably see more publishers trying to implement this in their games, as well as next gen. I can see this also becoming probably a little bit more common. Anyway, this brings me out of my commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like, and if you've got any comments about this, so obviously whether you think that microtransactions should stay out of retail games and just into free-to-play games, or whether you don't mind it too much when it's in sort of Mass Effect 3 and Assassin's Creed 3 because it's in the multiplayer side of things, and also maybe what you think about it in Dead Space 3, whether it's something that should be done or shouldn't be done, considering Dead Space 3 is mainly about the single-player experience. And if you want to join the Gamerhood, just subscribe. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.